Hey everybody, so after a couple years of experimenting with the reassessment process and more specifically trying to come up with efficient ways for me to actually create the reassessments and make less work for me and failing very often at it, in other words, trying to come up with a way that actually creates less time, I found that I just haven't fully come up with a way to do so yet, or a way that I'm proud of or want to consistently do from year to year. So this past summer, I've actually been inspired by another teacher, and I'm going to actually show you her method as to what she does. It's very simple, and we all have access to it, and so I figured I'd make a tutorial to show certain people that maybe aren't as familiar with Google Drive or maybe as techie or whatever you want to call it, just so that they could have a step-by-step access tutorial on it. So what you first want to do is create a Google form. And for me, I just call it a reassessment request. And this is the form that every student is going to see, which will, in my case, will be on my Schoology page. And this is the Google form that every student will see. And it's going to ask for information from them that I deem important. So I'm going to want their first name and last name to identify what class period of chemistry they're in, what learning objective or learning target they're trying to reassess. So in my case, I just want them to type in the code. So like 1.1 or 1.2, whatever it may be, they can do multiple. Any actions that they've taken to improve their understanding, just so that I know what they've done. The date in which they're coming in to reassess, I've given them a little calendar option here. And then the time that they're planning to come in and reassess. So this is very important to me because, as maybe many of you have found out yourself, this can become a logistics nightmare in terms of just knowing who's going to do it, when they're going to do it, and most important, or even more than that, when specifically they're going to do it. So you're going to do it on Wednesday. Okay, when on Wednesday? Is that second period, sixth period, after school, or what? So I've given them three options: after school, during Laker time, or other. And in my case, other is for those people with open periods, 1 through 6. So they could just put third period there if they would like. Okay, and so again, the Google form is just going to be used to collect information from the student. The next thing that you want to do is actually create a Google Doc, and it's going to be used as a template, and I'll show you what that template's used for later, but I'm going to call mine the chemistry reassessment template. And just like the name implies, this template is going to serve as the foundation or the backbone for how every single chemistry reassessment is going to be generated. Now, you can make yours look however you want to. I've made mine look pretty bland to start off with. I might change it down the road or whatever, but every single chemistry reassessment is going to say this at the very top. And then notice that I put in first, I want their first name, I want their last name, I want the learning target that's going to be reassessed, I want the date in which it's going to be reassessed, and the time as well. Now notice that I put these little symbols right here. These are actually called merge tags. And I'll show you specifically why we need them later on, but their purpose is to take information from that Google form and place it right in here. So wherever there are merged tags around a specific set of words, like so first name, the name that student provides right here in the Google form for the first name, because I have put first name in merge tags, that is going to be that information placed right there. Same thing goes with last name, learning target, date, and time. But notice that I didn't put merge tags around learning target or the words chemistry reassessment. And that's just because I've put those as labels in there. So in other words, I want it to say those words right there. I don't really have to worry about it. But it'll become clearer as I actually produce one of these for you here in a minute. Okay, so that being said, you've made your Google form, you made your template in Google Docs. What you can do then is actually just go back into your Google form and go to responses, and you'll want to generate a spreadsheet in Google Sheets, and so you can just click on view responses in Sheets. Now there aren't any responses on my Google form yet. I will put one or two in here in a minute, but that's just essentially taking all the information from your Google form and placing it into a spreadsheet. Okay, now the most important part and where this fundamentally changed for me and is going to make a huge difference is from a certain add-on. So if you go to add-ons, you're going to want to add the little add-on called Autocrat. If you don't already have Autocrat, you can just go to Get Add-ons and then search for Autocrat and then download it really quickly. But I've already got it, so I'm going to go ahead and open it. Now, I already have an existing job for this spreadsheet. It's called Reassessment, which is actually what I'm going to show you, but I'll start from scratch here, essentially, and show you what it looks like. So the first thing that Autocrat is going to ask you is, what do you want to name your merged job? And so you can name it whatever you want. I'm just going to name it Reassessment. And just to be clear, Autocrat is an add-on that essentially takes information that is provided on from the Google form, and it merges it into a Google Doc to create a personalized document that can be shared or differentiated for different students. And so this is essentially going to take me out of the equation in terms of generating a retake or a reassessment for different students. Okay, so I've already given the title to mine. The next thing you're going to want to do is choose a template. And the template is essentially going to be the document that you're going to use that each reassessment is going to look like. Okay, so it's talking about this particular template right here. So I can actually just tell it to, go in my drive and then go and actually find that Google Doc. And I've done that. So chemistry reassessment template, that's the one I currently have selected, so that's good. And then right here, it's saying, okay, in your template, these are the things that I see that have merged tags around them, right? And if you go back to my template, first name, last name, learning target, date, and time, that's why those things are listed here in this little left column right here, okay? But over here, where it says maps to column, what it's essentially asking me is, okay, where it says first name and merge tags right here, what column am I taking, what column am I taking information from in that Google Sheet in order to put into that little area where it says first name and merge tags, right? So if you click on the little drop-down menu, you can see that these questions here are coming directly from my Google form itself. First name, last name, class period, learning target, and so on. Okay, so obviously in the first name with the merge tags around it, I'm going to want first name. So you could just click first name. Last name, I'd want last name. The learning target, right? So even though it doesn't just say learning target on my reassessment form, right? It says what learning targets are you reassessing? What I can do, what this allows me to do is actually choose that specific question to take information or answers from that question and place it into where it says learning target and merge tags. So I'll do the same or a similar thing for date. So when are you coming in to reassess? Time, what time are you coming in to reassess? And then I'm good. Okay, so I've essentially just told it to say, hey, take this information and place it here. The next thing you want to do under file settings is how do you want Autocrat to actually label this file that it generates? Because what it's going to do is it's going to automatically create a new Google Doc, and you're going to want that Google Doc to be labeled in some sort of way. Maybe I can at least speak from experience that when I first started off with Google Drive, just like our students, you would make Google Doc after Google Doc after Google Doc, and maybe a sheet, and maybe a form, and you'd label them, but all of a sudden you didn't use an appropriate labeling system or something like that. Well, when we have tens or even hundreds of reassessments after a few months or throughout the year, you're going to want some organized way to label these. And so what I've told Autocrat to do is essentially label it by last name, then first name, and then a colon, and then the learning targets that they're going to reassess, and then a double dash just to kind of separate a little bit, and then the date that they're going to reassess it. Okay, but more specifically, to get the last name in there, I put those merge tags around there, just so it's going to take that information right there, and I put the merge tags around the first name as well. I put a $ in front of what learning targets are you reassessing. simply because it's a sentence. I'm going to use that actual $ instead of the merge tags. Whenever I tried it with the merge tags, it wasn't working. So I'm using this $ instead. So just something to kind of remember on the side. And then same thing goes for when are you coming in to reassess. Okay, and you'll see what that actually looks like later on. And then the output is multiple documents. You're going to want to choose the destination folder for each of these files that Autocrat is going to generate. So what you don't want is just a whole bunch of reassessments made that are just kind of randomly dropped in your Google Drive. You want them to go to a specific spot. Organization is key, and it's going to help streamline this process even more. So for me, what I did is I created a chemistry reassessments folder. And all of this reassessment stuff is within a reassessment stuff folder, which is within my chemistry class folder. So I strongly encourage you to make something like this, just so you have, one folder that has all of this stuff. Obviously, you can create a different one for a different class if you have multiple preps or whatever. All right, so I click on choose folder and it'll go into my Google Drive, and then I'll choose the appropriate folder. In this case, I've chosen the right one. So chemistry reassessments is right there. Dynamic folder reference, that's optional. You don't got to worry about it. If you're good with this stuff, you can set certain merge conditions, which is optional as well. I don't really care about it, so I'm not going to. I don't really want to share these Google Docs or send any emails. And then the last thing that you'll have to tell Autocrat to do has to deal with job triggers. So the first option here is run on form trigger, yes or no. So if you click on yes, what that means is each time the Google form is submitted, in other words, each time a student actually fills out this Google form, it will automatically generate the Google Doc right then and there. Okay, but if you click no, then it won't do that. But if you click run on time trigger, you can choose to do it, every hour, every 2 hours, every 5 hours, every day, whatever. Right? So in my case, I definitely wanted to create the Google Doc the moment that somebody has completed that Google form. And I don't really have to worry about a time trigger since it's automatically doing it whenever they submit it anyways. Okay, so when you're done with that, you can go ahead and click save. And then I'm going to actually show you what it looks like from the student's point of view. And not only that, but from a teacher point of view, once a student has submitted. So I'll just create a fake one real quick. Let's just pretend that I'm in second period and I want to reassess 1.1 and 1.2. This is just from like our unit 1. What actions have I taken? Blah, blah, blah. When are you coming in to reassess? Let's just say it's this Thursday, the 29th of June. And maybe I click after school. Okay, so student hits submit. And once they have hit submit, you'll notice that their responses are right here. Okay, and that's all well and good, but that's not really the purpose of what I'm trying to do here. What I'm trying to do is take that information now and have Autocrat generate a Google Doc for me with the reassessments available. So if I go into chemistry reassessments, which is the folder I told Autocrat to send these, notice that nothing's there right now, right? And then it's there. So it takes usually, I found maybe 20, 25 seconds for it to generate it. But the nice thing about this is you can see exactly that it's labeled exactly how I told it to label it. Last name, then separated by a comma, then first name, colon, the learning objectives that the student wants to reassess, so 1.1 and 1.2, dash, and then the date in which they're going to do this. So I think this is going to become really useful, especially when the same student wants to reassess throughout the year, right? So you can imagine a whole bunch of Ben Meachams throughout this, but the fact that I have these separated by date, I'm not going to get confused about what's what. Okay, so but the best part about this is when I double click on this and open this up, you can see that what was once just my template is now a personalized document that has been made for this particular student. So it still says chemistry reassessment, but now instead of just sort of the first name, last name with merge tags around it, it says Ben Meacham. The learning targets that he's going to reassess are 1.1 and 1.2. He's going to do this on June 29th, and he's going to do this after school. Okay, so this was really nice for me because it's personalized. Okay, and it's automatically generated for me, and that's less time that I have to spend actually doing this. Okay, now the biggest thing you should probably notice is that there's no questions on here. So where are the questions? So my gut instinct is if you got really good with this, you could figure out ways to actually throw questions into the Google Sheet itself, the original Google Sheet, and then have it automatically generated in here. But I'm not going to worry about that, at least right now, because it's going to be kind of beyond not only myself, but I think a lot of people. So what you can do, one of the teachers, the teacher that I actually got this idea from, she actually just gets this, she writes out a question, maybe writes out another question for what they're going to do, for whatever the objective is, and then boom, has it done, and then prints it and then hands it to the student, or prints a whole bunch of them and then makes a pile of them and say, you know, in the back of the room or whatever. Okay, so that's definitely one way in which you can use this to sort of manually just create those questions right then and there. But you know, that can be a little bit annoying sometimes. I think that's going to take even more time, not necessarily than what I used to do, but it's just more time that I don't really want to spend on creating something. So what I've chosen to do instead is actually create a folder that says reassessment questions, and it's kind of a bank of questions, of just reassessment questions. So this is really where the only front-loading aspect is going to take place. And it's no better time to do it than during the summer. So in this folder, you know, right now I've just kind of started this process. So I have Unit 1. And in Unit 1, we have 4 different learning objectives or learning targets. And this student wants to reassess 1.1 and 1.2. So if I click on 1.1, what I've made are questions, just reassessment questions that are specific to learning objective 1.1. And you can imagine, you know, if a whole department collaborates on this, you can easily fill up multiple pages of this. So you have just a huge bank of questions to choose from, which is actually really nice because you can actually use that to differentiate reassessments, which could help prevent or at least tail off potential cheating. But not only that, you can actually create modified questions in here. So you can imagine a little section within this document being just modified reassessment questions. And so that way you can easily just pull from this bank of questions and then throw it right into that personalized Google Doc that was generated before. So let's just pretend for a moment that the student, I wanted just these 2 questions in the student's reassessment. Okay, so I just copied and pasted it. Screwing everything up, sorry. And in doing so, maybe I just call this, you know, these are the 1.1 questions. Okay, now the next thing that I can do is throw in some 1.2 questions. So I don't need the 1.1 questions anymore. Going to 1.2, same idea. Maybe I just want to have, you know, just this one good question. So for 1.2, I can throw that right in there. And just like that, my reassessment is made. I don't want to say it's 100% automatically generated. I mean, this part is up here and the document itself is, but you saw me actually just, you know, throw these in here, but I didn't have to like manually type this in each time. All I had to do was just copy and paste it from a question bank that I had. Okay. And I mean, some people might look at this and say, well, why don't I just create one reassessment and then just print that out whenever somebody needs a reassessment? And that's actually what I did all of last year. And that really wasn't bad because you just had to make one. And then once you made that one, anytime anybody wanted to reassess, you just print that one out, right? But one of the downfalls of that is, you know, as we know, kids talk. And so it's like, hey, look out for this type of question on a reassessment. But even more than that, even to get beyond sort of the paranoia of cheating and whatnot, it helps for differentiating different students, both for advanced students, students that are kind of in the middle ground, and for struggling students or students with learning disabilities. So like I said, if I have Say maybe this is a really good question for somebody that's a little bit lower level or has a learning disability or something like that. Maybe I place that question into their chemistry reassessment instead of this question, right? And that's not something that was as easily as done in the previous way that I used to do it. I would have had to create separate document files for that each time from scratch, and it just takes more time. So this is just a matter of copying and pasting. Okay, and then what I would do is I would print this out and actually give to the student or whatever. And you can choose to print however many of these you want out at a particular time. But that being said, the last thing that I'm thinking about before I stop talking for a moment is sometimes a kid just wants to reassess 1.1. So when I say differentiated, it's not just differentiated based on the question and their skill level, it's differentiated based on their want and need. So they only want to retake 1.1. Okay, well then I'll just create your chemistry reassessment with questions on 1.1. But if a different student wants to retake 1.1 and 1.2, all right, well then yours will look different than the kid that just wanted 1.1. But maybe a kid wants to retake 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3, and you can kind of envision where this is going. And so I think that this process is going to really streamline the actual reassessment process itself. And I'm willing to give it a shot. And if you're interested in this at all, or if you have any questions, please let me know. I'd like to collaborate with anybody else on this. But if you found it useful, hopefully it can provide some benefit to you.